Welcome to Conversate, our podcast where we engage in conversation. On this week's episode, I, Aaron, and Kevin are back together, coming to you from Eau Claire, Wisconsin. We're at the Fall Pastors Conference here, so we're picking up this conversation about money and money-related issues. Also sharing a little bit about the conference that we're at. We're talking about the current state of the pro-life movement. So. Look forward to sharing this conversation with you. As always, our goal is that you'll hear something in this conversation that will inspire you to go start another spiritual conversation with somebody else. I hope you enjoy it. Hi, buddy.
Hey, Aaron.
Oh, that's weird.
It's one of the softest dinks we've had.
Water bottle and a styrofoam cup. Well, it's been a minute since you and I conversated in this format, and not only that, but we're not even on the brown couch.
I know, mixing it up.
We're men of the world.
We're traveling
men
in the great state.
Right now, we're in the great state of Wisconsin.
Yeah.
I was thinking about it, like how long we've actually been doing this podcast. Like we've done these from different places, like with the National Youth Gathering, but then right now we're at the annual Fall Pastors Conference in Wisconsin. So,
which we've conversated from before in Stevens Point, maybe.
Yeah, Stevens Point, Wisconsin Rapids, Wausau,
Eau Claire is now on
Claire, Wisconsin.
Yeah, we're hitting all the Wisconsin cities.
Yeah, so this one, so yeah, we're here talking about the current state of the pro-life movement is the topic. And the executive director and then a deaconess are who both work for Lutherans for Life are talking. So it's been interesting and informative, especially when it comes to, like, I don't know. I know some things about like in particular about like abortion and stuff like that, but a number of statistics that were shared about, particularly like the number of like Christian folks who have had abortions or been down that path is quite startling, and so I guess I would even just say, like, those of you those people listening to this, if that's something that you've either been through or know somebody that has and is struggling with it, like we will never pass judgment upon you. There's great grace for you in Jesus and forgiveness even for that. So I think that's probably something that we don't maybe I don't know that I've said that publicly and haven't really preached about that. So obviously we preach about the grace of Jesus Christ all the time that covers over a multitude of sins. But it's interesting how we, each of us, that maybe if we have certain proclivities to certain sins, Satan is good at continuing to produce guilt and shame in us over sort of saying, like, no, that's your identity, that's one that you're guilty of, that one's not forgivable, which is that's a trick, it's a lie. Like every sin is forgivable from Jesus. So yeah.
One of the other benefits of these conferences is a chance to rub shoulders with our other pastors in our district, which extends into the UP, obviously, since we're here, but all of North Wisconsin. And but yeah, I was talking with an old friend of mine who actually preached at my installation, Ethan, and specifically about it's the Greek word schemata, I think. And but these schemes, and this is kind of how Satan operates, right? He's got schemes, and the scheme isn't just, here are some, bad things that I want you to kind of go towards because they're going to be, ruinous for you. I mean, it could be part of a scheme, but another scheme that Satan has, and this is the one you're talking about more so, is when you've experienced that or when you've been down a path, this idea that, yeah, forgiveness applies in this situation, that situation, but not in yours, or not for this particular thing. There was a powerful movie that one of the presenters shared about someone who had been trapped in kind of a ruinous lifestyle, and that was one thing that really struck me in the video, was her talking about even while she was in worship settings, this idea that God was very far removed from her, and that kind of her only experience of God was one of judgment.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, a really good reminder that for us, as we seek to preach the gospel clearly, which by no means says these other paths and places are don't matter. It all matters, but there's nothing that, well, as we hear from Romans, there's nothing that can separate you from the love of God. So, especially when we find ourselves, yeah, maybe broken, from whatever path we have walked down, knowing that that's precisely where Jesus comes to meet us. I mean, it's what
Yeah.
he's doing on the cross, is he's meeting us there.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Perfect.
Mm. Which I suppose makes sense too, even when it comes to meeting us in our own financial journeys. I know that's where, not that we have to riff on
no, we
our Sunday theme, but
no, we should. We should.
yeah, we just capped out that Money Matters series, which is another. I can't remember if you alluded to it in this last sermon on Sunday, um, but I think it's another cultural spot, right? Where we maybe are, either maybe we talk about it a lot or we don't talk about it enough. It's kind of hard to figure out what's the right way when it comes to our money,
Yeah.
to dialogue. And hopefully, this sermon series has been helpful for you as we think through, one, that our money does matter,
Right.
two, that there are some spiritual implications, but the message isn't one primarily of, uh, money is evil and therefore get away from it as much as you can, but rather, how can I utilize the gifts God has given me in a way that will not only help others, but will even draw you into a deeper gratitude to God and what He's done for you.
Right. Well, I think that's. Uh, I did say it in the concluding sermon, and I think, well, about the fact that money is a is evidence of God's grace in your life,
Hmm.
like practical.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, I, 'cause I don't know. I think a lot of people probably treat money as just one of these earthly affairs, one of these things that we just kind of have to deal with,
Mm-hmm. Maybe even like kind of separate from
from
spiritual
spirituality.
things. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Right. Right.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know for those of you listening, for you what that is, but I just I think for a lot of people, it probably feels like that. Like this isn't a spiritual thing, or maybe the giving to church is the
Mm.
spiritual part of money, but then the rest of it is just like
Yeah.
in business. You just
Do
gotta,
whatever you want.
yeah.
Uh-huh.
But that would be sort of like saying that your life is also like bifurcated in such a way where your only spiritual life is when you show up for an hour on Sunday, and then the rest of your life is just whatever earthly stuff. And
Mhm.
that's just not how God works. And when you're a child of God and your identity is in Him, your whole life is from His grace alone for you. So everything in your life, every blessing comes to you as evidence of God's grace in your life. And so
Mm.
money becomes this tangible thing where God basically gives it to you out of His grace, in order to then to be shared and to put into practice, basically as evidence of His grace in the world. So,
Mm.
a lot of times, when we talk about, um, like when we talk about sharing the good news of Jesus Christ, sharing the gospel or whatever, like sometimes we'll talk about that in a very spiritual way, or just as sort of like limited to the message that Jesus died for you on the cross. So it's
Mm.
like, Jesus died for you on the cross. Here's this good news for you. Now go and share that good news with somebody else. Now that's true, but then also, like everything in our life, if everything in our life comes to us as God's grace for us, therefore it can be put into practice also, as a gospel message. So money comes to us
Mm.
from God. Therefore, money accompanies that message of the gospel. Money, being generous to people, to take care of the poor, the needy, the work of the church, all these things. Like this is how God, in one way works grace into the world. And so
Mm, mhm, mhm.
um, that's it. That's a I think it's just a good reminder for us to keep it like that, to keep the whole conversation about all the money
Mm,
in connection with our spirituality. You know
mm,
that
mhm,
that it's not broken up like just the 10% or the
mm.
whatever percent or the just the giving part is just the spiritual part, and then how I use it to be a blessing for my family or whatever, pay bills. That's just
Yeah,
business.
just regular life,
Yeah.
normal life, something like that. Well, and that's a neat reframing too of even thinking about money as grace, from the standpoint of just as Christians, part of our experience of our faith is growing into the image of God.
Yeah.
Right, so He's created us with His image. It's been distorted, and we deal with sin and struggle, but God is reforming us into His image, and part of what that means is the more we get to know Him, the more we see His grace towards us, uh, the more we also want to become givers like
Mm.
Him, to become generous with. So yeah, like our extension of grace isn't simply just like you said, the elevator speech about Jesus dying on the cross. While true,
Hmm.
there's a myriad of ways, just like there's a myriad of ways God cares for, extends His love towards us. I mean, through Jesus and the cross is maybe the most obvious entryway into God's like how He how He loves us. Sometimes
Hmm.
it's not as obvious in these other arenas, because you could have somebody who's getting paid whatever amount over here, somebody's getting a different salary over here, and it's like, well, wait a minute, does that mean God prefers them over this person? And that's not the point. Uh, but rather that all the gifts that we have ultimately come from God who loves to give.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And so there was there was a lot of stuff that I wanted to say I could have said in sermons, and I've I've shared some of this before, but I don't know. Um, oh, my wife and I, our experience of like learning how to give was a learned experience for us in our marriage. Early on, when so my wife Abby and I got married right out of college. So you know, coming out of
Mm.
college, these young kids get married, move off to St. Louis, Missouri, where I'm gonna start going to school to learn to be a pastor at the seminary. My wife had she graduated after 4 years, or but then still had that fall semester to student teach.
Mm.
So she was able to do that in St. Louis, Missouri. So like when we started at the seminary, we had no we had no money.
Oh, sure, no
No,
income.
like no. I had a part-time little gig, like doing some music at a church that was, I don't know, got us a couple of groceries, but that was about it. And so we and then after that, so she got her teaching license in January, but then it's mid-year. She wasn't able to get a teaching job, so she worked like a part-time gig. So like we had a whole year of just not much income in general. But on top of that, we were not looking back, we weren't disciplined at all with even what we had. Um, so the way that the kind of traditional route of seminary works, Kevin, you and I both did this, where it's like you go 2 years of school and then go somewhere else for a year of vicarage internship and then come back for your school. In those first 2 years of school, not only did Abby and I like rack up some student loans to kind of help us survive, but then we also we got a car loan, and then on top of that, we took out. It ended up being like somewhere close to like $10,000 of credit card debt,
Mm.
and we just I don't know we just sort of got in this spiral of like, I'm sure at some point it'll get figured out, which in
It
the
did.
end, it kind of did. I wouldn't recommend that though. It was on my third year. We were on vicarage, and the vicarage church I was at offered this class, Financial Peace University, Dave Ramsey, a class, and we've offered that before, and we need to do it again. There's people who want to take that course, but going through that, it just teaches some some baby steps for kind of financial freedom and financial peace. And it's a Christian based thing, and so it certainly teaches right off the bat about budgeting, and in that budgeting, tithing first
Mm.
and foremost,
Mm-hmm.
setting 10% aside right away. And so I know that in those first 2 years of our marriage, when we were getting into all that debt, like we wanted to be generous, or like we wanted to give to church, but we couldn't figure out how. It was like we're just there's nothing left. Like there's so much not of anything.
Hardly even starting with anything, it sounds like. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And so that like I'm sympathetic to that, where it's like when you get into this kind of survival mode of financial management where it's like
Mm.
I can't even, like, I understand I want to be generous, but I can't figure out how. And so that just the discipline, though, financial peace comes through financial discipline, just like anything. I mean, there's all kinds of discipline. So the
Mm.
discipline of like having conversations, being proactive, putting together a plan, a budget, just saying we're gonna tithe, and then we'll figure out the rest from there. So we made that shift. Like when I was on vicarage, we had gone from giving nothing and being tons of debt to just going cold turkey and giving 10%, which my wife taught at a Lutheran school, making unfortunately not much money at all. And I had like a small stipend for being a vicar. But in that 1 year of vicarage, we started tithing. We gave 10%, and we paid off all $10,000 of credit card debt in that
Mm.
in that 1 year, and then moved to kind of a cash based system and continued working down the rest of paying off other student loans and things. But just that that shift was incredibly. I don't know. It wasn't there. It wasn't like all of a sudden we had this surplus of money, and that's
Mm-hmm.
what shifted the dynamic.
Mm-hmm.
It was just the diligence and the prayerful consideration and planning to go. No, this is what we're gonna do. Um, yeah, we're gonna be generous first and foremost. Trust God that He's given us everything,
Mm.
so we're gonna set this aside and trust that just as He gave us at 10%, He's going to give us what we need. And we've never looked back, and that's always been the thing. Um, and it's been such a blessing, but not easy. Not
Mm-hmm.
easy. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, 10% is no small percent of an income. So there's been many times, like as we do our monthly budget, like that number is right there.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I don't look at it as something that can be finagled to like decrease that in order to free up anything else. But I see it, and it's like, and then you see like, oh man, we got, even if we tapped into that just a little bit, we'd be
Mm-hmm.
we'd be able to do this thing or that thing. And it's like, I don't know. I mean, in the end, whatever we've needed to do, we've been able to do, and God has blessed us in surprising ways. Um, Usually just when we need it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't know. I was just that experientially, like I've kind of been through this journey of like, you know, being a lot of debt, being not knowing what to do, wanting to be generous, and then figuring that out. And so I guess I just share that, like, because I'm trying to share from experience, like when I'm teaching about tithing or giving or whatever. It's like I I get it. Like I'm sympathetic to it. It's not like I'm standing up there going,
Mm.
"You gotta do this. You gotta do it."
Mhm,
Yeah.
mhm,
But it's such a spiritual. It is such a spiritual thing. Like, and for our family, of just like, no, the 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 trust in God. It's all about trust. It's
mm,
just trusting in His provisions daily. Give us this day our daily bread.
mhm.
That's all. That's what Jesus teaches us. Not our tomorrow bread, or our 10 years from now retirement bread.
Yeah,
Give us a daily bread.
just for today.
Anyway.
Mhm. No, I think it's really helpful sharing, especially for because I think, as you addressed on Sunday, there can be folks who have never even heard anything about this component of the Christian life.
Yeah.
So even hearing from like the biblical perspective that this has always been kind of a piece
Uh-huh.
of the way God ordered life for the community, but I think it's that that trust thing, like trust. And John's letters, First John, Second John, Third John, are really good at getting at this too, because trust is such an abstract. It can be really easy to say that I trust, this or that person. I trust God. It'd be an easy thing to say. Oh yeah, I love this or that person. I love God. But the fruit of our actions oftentimes become the big sort of challenge to those statements. Like we can imagine sometimes that we trust more or love more than um, maybe what our actions will justify or will prove. And that for me has been something with, like, again with the tithe piece. uh yeah, sort of this challenge, because it's like I've had intentions at different stages in my life where it was like, I know that this would be a good thing, but it just seems so hard.
Yeah.
And I think there's something about that 10% mark. At least I've heard other pastors talk this way, that it's almost like God designed it to be just at a level that is kind of like, oh, like you feel it.
Yeah.
It's not nothing. You're gonna feel it. And I remember sitting down towards the end of my seminary career, kind of in a similar position. We'd had Lily on our vicarage, and so that was a whole new world in terms of our budgeting and cost, kind of stuff. And coming into that season of life with a fair amount of undergraduate and then graduate loans. But meeting with actually the current president of the seminary,
Oh.
at the time he wasn't; he was just a professor, Tom Egger, and we talked on a couple different, like, components of this wellness wheel, but one of them was financial.
Oh, really?
We'd like set goals during seminary in the different areas of that wellness wheel, but that was our goal for the financial one, was tithing, and
Ah,
kind of recognizing where we were at the moment, which is the first step, really.
yeah.
If nothing else, I think that's like such a good practical piece. Is like, even just to look, what am I? Do I know what I'm bringing in, and where the money's going out? Because sometimes just that awareness is enough to be like, oh wow, I didn't realize I spent this much over here,
Yeah.
or what have you. Um, but then, yeah, Tom, President Egger, uh, encouraged us towards what you're saying as well, that just make that the first line, kind of the financial piece wisdom. Just have that as your top line. Have it be the first thing you do,
Yeah.
and be surprised, right? Watch God provide for you as you move through. Like, is it going to be challenging? Will there be some times where you're thinking, I wish we didn't do that? Yeah, very, very well could be. But also the ongoing experience of doing it, especially because we've also had those seasons where it's like, I don't even know how we're going to make it,
Uh-huh.
right? And then something does come through.
Yeah.
We just got a recent mailing from the state of Michigan, because we way overpaid on our taxes,
Hey.
which was awesome. And it came right at a moment where we're like, well, this is great, And so it's very interesting. And I don't say that as well to suggest that, and I don't think we're suggesting this at all. I know we talk pretty pointedly against it. It's not like you give to God and then you're promised some sort of abundant financial blessing.
Mm-mm.
That's not His promise for you, but it does serve as sort of an antidote to, well, miserliness. That is something you talked about on Sunday, because money just has, I don't know, it's got this kind of hold on our hearts. Like, it's something that is very tangibly useful. It does offer us. It's the thing we use to acquire security, to acquire status. It's got all these significant, I don't know, roads in our lives, and so therefore it's a very easy thing, whether we recognize it or not, to sort of put our faith and trust in the dollar.
Oh, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we have this even in like a pre-marriage curriculum assessment thing that we do with couples getting married. Like there's a whole section on money.
Mm-hmm.
And I always ask couples even before digging into that. I'm like, I would just say, like, why do you think a topic like this is in would be in our like pre-marriage? It shouldn't. Why aren't we just talking about communication, or like why
Mm-hmm.
money? And obviously they'll say things like, oh, it's probably lots of people have arguments about money. It's like, well, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's
More
that's
than any
one thing.
other, right? Yeah.
I mean, it's continuously listed as one of the number one reasons marital issue or money related issues for divorce. But on top of that, too, like I was just reminding them that, I mean, money is in it's in almost every conversation decision that we make about
Mm.
lots of things. I mean, you know, we you and I just went out to lunch. Like, well, there. I mean, we're making some money decisions there. You know, we didn't go to the steakhouse for lunch. You know,
Yeah.
we went and got a sandwich, and so, and then once you've chosen what restaurant to go to, you know, I mean, it's
Mm.
just like, you
Mm-hmm.
know, are we gonna buy brand new brand name shoes for the kids, or are we
Mm.
gonna buy some slightly used stuff from the thrift store that's off label or whatever? It's like,
Mm. Mm-hmm.
you know,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so all those things. So if we don't learn how to have like proactive, peace filled, joy filled conversations about money, like in advance of of you know, utilizing that money, then money just becomes this nebulous thing that we're kind of just swimming in, trying to figure out, this anxiety producing stressor that we just can't shake, you know. So there's got to be, so I'm just a huge proponent of being disciplined with financial resources. If you're married, you know, talking with your spouse about those things
Mm.
in advance. I mean, and that's just what I mean. This is what I've learned from the Financial Peace University kind of way of budgeting. Because when I ask sometimes people about budgeting, like what do they do, and a lot of times people will say, yeah, I mean, our budget is just like figuring out how much we spent at the grocery store or going out to eat or whatever, and then we sort of organize it after. So like
Mm.
it's
Like
like a,
tracking instead of.
yeah, it's like tracking instead of
Uh-huh.
making a plan.
Yeah.
Um, and so that's in my opinion, I don't. That's not really budgeting. So budgeting is like in advance, sort of saying, you know, this is the plan for these dollars. Um, you know, it's not like you have to have every penny planned out, but
Mm.
you know, big categories and little, you know, more specific things. But um, just it's just I don't know, in my opinion, a more peaceful way to live, to kind
Mm.
of have that.
Well, and it gives you boundaries then that helps guide your activities so that when you get to the end of a month, you can say, hey, look, we had a target, we threw the dart, here's where we landed.
Yeah. Well, I just even remember when Abby and I first started budgeting, like when we were on vicarage. So we did the tithe, and again, our income level wasn't that much greater, but when we learned to budget, I think Abby was like, "Can we put like $20 a month in like a clothing
Mm.
budget or
Mm-hmm.
whatever?" Um, I'm like, you know, going through, like, yeah, we can do that. I don't know if it was 20, whatever it was, but it was like money set aside to be able to buy clothes. And so all of a sudden it's like, oh, we can feel okay
Yeah.
about buying the clothes
Mm-hmm.
and not be like, oh, was that a good decision to make or not? It's like, no, we said that's what we would do. And so we did it, and great, you know? And so
Mm-hmm.
like
Mm-hmm.
just the anxiety reducing, but peace producing of that planning, you know, and also giving at the same time. I don't know. This, yeah. And I'm no financial whiz. I actually don't even like. I'm not even that much of a nerd. I don't really like the. I don't really.
Mm. And crunching the numbers.
I don't
I
really
get
like
into the
doing.
spreadsheet
I
thing.
mean, we have a spreadsheet.
Yeah.
Anyways, but we do it. We do it. Yeah, but I don't know. Just speaking from experience. So
Mm.
yeah, I don't know. I don't know where our, you know, for those of you listening, where you're at when it comes to your financial situation. If you're kind of in that, you know, just nebulous, kind of chaotic anxiety sort of mode of managing money, or if you're a little bit more disciplined. Um, Either way, again, that idea of like setting aside first and foremost what you're going to give, is that's a huge spiritual discipline. And again, the tithe, the 10%, um, is, you know, we're not under the law. We're not
Mm.
under the law. We're under grace. So we're not going to stand here or sit here and say like, you know, got to give 10%
Mm.
or Jesus doesn't love you.
Mm-hmm.
That's not. by any means the case. But he's given to you an offer to live in such a way that you trust him with your everything and acknowledge that everything that you have comes to you out of his abundant grace for you. And so giving is one of those things. So yeah, if you're not given anything, I would just recommend pick some percent. Pick, I don't know, 1, 2, 3%. Just start doing that, and then try to increase it each year or something like that. I know people that have done that, and they've found themselves increasing much faster than they thought, because it's just like, oh yeah, we're already doing this much. Let's just give a little bit more. So
yeah, Tom Egger too commented on in his relationship with his wife and family, the joy, and that's, I think, part of what you'll experience if you haven't done this, or if it's been a while maybe since you've thought about taking another step, forward in the generosity category. But he and his wife just sort of, just enjoyed together thinking of the different impacts they were able to make at various times, whether it was just kind of like, hey, look how much we've contributed, over the course of our lives, or when they got to places where they, could even go above and beyond the tithe to those gifts and offerings, when there was something that they said, yeah, like, we would love to bless this person. We would love to bless, this resource that's going to be provided. And that, I think, too, is maybe some of the hidden joy of the generosity piece. It's we, for whatever reason, we don't imagine that it's going to be there, even though there's like studies we know, like Jesus said, it's more blessed to give than to receive. But yeah, as you get to participate in that becomes just some of the sweetness of it as well.
Yeah, well, and that's like where God says, or it says in 2 Corinthians, that God loves a cheerful giver. And I think that's sometimes when I've heard that before, it's like, how do I, in my reluctance to give, make myself joyful or cheerful about this reluctance to give? It's like, well, I don't think that's not.
You don't force a smile when you put it in the plate.
Yeah, I don't see people smiling when they're getting when that plates are being passed. I don't think it's that. I think it's like this joy, like the cheerful giving, will be a byproduct of that kind of continual life lived in giving and trusting. Like, it's just it'll turn from that reluctance into great cheer and joy, because you just
especially as you see God coming through for you, especially as you see him coming through for you, but then also when you get to come through, let's say, for somebody else. It's good.
Super cool. We're gonna be shifting gears over the next couple of weeks out of money, and spend a short little period next week talking about Reformation stuff, and then we're gonna be moving into a sermon series and conversations here about the end times, and kind of looking at the book of Revelation and stuff. So
buckle up for that.
Buckle up. All right. Well, this is good for now, buddy, and I think we'll be back on the brown couch soon.
I think so. I look forward to it anyway.
All right. Well, for today, peace, buddy.